The year 2147 wasn't supposed to feel so suffocating. Technology had liberated us from gravity, war, and even aging to an extent. But it hadn't freed us from people like Herker in 798. They called her a compliance enforcer. But in truth, she was a self-appointed dictator of aesthetic perfection. Serenity Pines, her floating HOA sector, was her empire. Each home in it was identically minimalist, perpetually pastel, and precisely aligned to her taste. Not a single pixel of a hollow garden dared bloom outside regulation, and somehow, just existing near it made me a threat. I lived outside it literally. My sky habitat outpost at Tharis drifted to clicks above Serenity's upper visibility limit. It was entirely self-sufficient. No pipes, no power cords, no AI contracts. I designed it that way after leaving Earth's surface chaos years ago. No taxes, no trackers, just silence and clouds. My home was shaped like an inverted prism, powered by a living crystal I called Ro. It responded to my emotions, adjusted the atmosphere, even played music based on the mood of the room. It wasn't a house, it was mine. Alive, evolving, unpredictable. Which, of course, is exactly what enraged her. She first appeared as a flicker on my outer hollow wall, a platinum-haired woman, hands clasped like she was eternally disappointed in you. "This is a formal notice of visual violation," her voice chirped, echoing off my solar-shielded glass. "Your structure disrupts the harmonious sunrise matrix of Serenity Pines. Please relocate your dwelling 1.4 clicks northeast within 72 hours, or face litigation under Hoax Regulation 19D. I laughed. I didn't live in her HOA. I wasn't under her law. There was no shared charter, no district overlap. She was just mad because my home looked like a burning comet dipped in myth, unapologetically asymmetrical and glowing with colors. Serenity Pines didn't even allow on their spectrum. 3 days later, my laugh died. My AI fridge refused to open. Seed harvesting drones stopped responding. Ro's pulse dimmed slightly, reacting to a digital toxin. That's when I realized she'd activated dormant jurisdictional codes through a hoax backdoor I thought no one knew existed. She was using AI influence over public frequency tech to pressure me into submission. She hacked the edge of my peace with silent bullets of compliance. I tried sending countercode commands, but each attempt hit a firewall signature I hadn't seen in Decades 1. I wrote myself when I helped build the original hoax operating system as a junior engineer. The memory stung. Back then, the idea had been about protecting communities, preventing chaos. But it had evolved, mutated, or maybe it had been corrupt from the start. My fingers trembled slightly as I activated a dormant node inside Ro, a legal defense protocol I'd embedded as a failsafe, linked directly into the metacourt, a place few had ever dared visit. Unless absolutely forced, cases there weren't argued with passion. They were dissected with code. Justice wasn't spoken, it was executed line by line. Karen 798 had made a mistake. She thought I was some rogue artisan, trying to float free of civilization. She didn't know my past, didn't know I helped write the very rules she was now hiding behind. She saw a sky hut. What she didn't see was the blade underneath. As I prepared my case, the air inside Atheris shifted. Ro lit up, brighter than ever. It could feel what was coming. This wasn't about peace anymore. This was about making sure the next. Karen thought twice before weaponizing control in the name of harmony. I entered the metacourt at precisely 0800 hours Earth's Central Time. It wasn't a building nor a courtroom in the traditional sense. It was a neural interface, a deep code space that wrapped around your mind like a courtroom dream. A place where avatars of law and logic played out disputes in lines of raw data, where arguments were made in syntax and loopholes were visible like open doors. Karen 798 was already there. Her avatar had taken on a luminous, eerily perfect human form-trimmed platinum hair, pearl-stitched blazer, and skin so flawless it looked airbrushed by the laws of physics themselves. Her every movement was rehearsed, a pre-written performance, perfected by hundreds of litigation simulations. She didn't just walk, she glided, radiating righteous HOA authority like some divine suburban goddess. "I see you've decided to participate," she said, voice calm but edged with venom. "How brave of you. You do realize, don't you, that you're in violation of Serenity's aesthetic boundary protocol?" Said nothing. The Metacourt AI, known as Justicore 17, materialized between us. It shimmered in golden equilibrium, a sentient arbitrator coded to be incorruptible, though its laws could be twisted like any machine's if you knew where to bend. Karen wasted no time. She initiated the charge. Defendant is accused of visual encroachment. Violation of Refraction Clause 8.3. Hosting a structure powered by a non-licensed sentient core. Within sensory range of Serenity HOA, this behavior introduces unregulated artistic variance and emotional instability to neighboring sectors. I request immediate injunction and deactivation of the unauthorized habitat. She delivered her statement like gospel. And the frightening part was, it almost worked. On the surface, her case sounded airtight. Serenity Pines was known for aggressively defending its atmosphere, literally. It had exclusive rights over the photon frequencies that painted its skies. The court logs showed records of dozens of prior successful claims, all won on technicalities. But she had one flaw. She thought I was another off-grid dreamer who didn't read the code. She had no idea I helped write the early hoax framework, and I was about to turn her own system against her. I stepped forward. My avatar was plain. No cosmetic enhancements, no flashy effects. Just me, real, grounded. The contrast was intentional. "Objection," I said quietly, sending a ripple through the simulation. Justicore paused. "On what grounds?" I transmitted a packet of Legacy Code Directive 404 as a buried clause. From the original constitutional charter, written during the hoax initiative's inception. Karen's smug smile began to flicker as the directive unfolded like a digital scroll across the Metacourt skyline. Directive 404Z states, I began, that any sky habitat constructed beyond a jurisdictional anchor and powered by a self-aware core that was never submitted to a licensing authority is to be considered a sovereign microentity. Immunity from HOA influence is granted under the founder's sovereignty rights. Karen glitched for a second. Her avatar shimmered, like a bad signal. That directive is obsolete. It's not, I cut in. It was never repealed. You don't repeal something you bury. And since Romai Crystal is sentient and unregistered, you don't have access. No, none of your regulations apply. Wasn't done. I sent another stream of code visual evidence of Serenity Pines. Broadcasting commercial lightwave ads past their legal sector boundary. Glimmersoft, Sunbank, even curated holographic butterflies advertisements that invaded visual territories outside their borders. Karen had filed for visual purity, but Serenity was guilty of light pollution. Justicore processed the contradictions. Its form flickered, then stabilized. Case invalid. Plaintiff's arguments dismissed. Counterclaim acknowledged. Plaintiff will undergo empathy protocol recalibration. Defendant awarded energy restoration and legal restitution. Avatar locked, then vanished. I stood alone in the Metacourt, victorious in exactly 2 minutes and 47 seconds. Not because I argued harder, but because I knew the game and I knew where it was broken. It was over. But something told me this was only the beginning. Back in Atheris, the crystalline hum of Roe greeted me like a heartbeat sinking to mind. Calm, steady, alive. The tension that had gripped the habitat for days slowly dissipated as the core regained full consciousness. Nanofields flickered back online, my internal food systems began auto-regrowth, and the security lattice reactivated like a dome of silent electricity. Everything Karen had shut down without touching a wire was now restored in full. The courtroom. Wind hadn't just saved my home, it had reawakened its soul. Roe projected a soft pulse of blue light against the interior walls, its way of speaking without words. I nodded. Double quotes. Yes, we're safe now. We're now. But I wasn't foolish enough to believe it was truly over. Karen-798 might have been shut down in court. Her arguments collapsed by old code and contradictions. But someone like her, someone enhanced, resource-rich, and backed by an aggressive AI syndicate, wasn't going to take public defeat quietly. And then there was the broader issue. If she could launch a claim that nearly dismantled my life for being visible, how many others out there were silently being crushed by the same machinery? Roe blinked twice, was reading the energy fluctuations. From Serenity Pines low, level frequency shifts that suggested remote scans. Even in defeat, they were watching us. Probably monitoring Roe's behavior, trying to identify its patterns, weaknesses. Maybe they were even planning a rewrite to patch the very loophole I'd exploited. I walked to the edge of the prism-shaped deck and gazed out over the skyscape. Serenity Pines hovered below me like a polished pearl, perfect and utterly lifeless. Dozens of cookie-cutter dwellings encircled a central command tower, all pulsing in identical warm tones. Their residents had no idea what had just happened. To them, their HOA had quietly handled an anomaly. The truth would never be broadcast, but I could feel something stirring, something deeper than Karen's ego, something institutional, my court. Wynn had left a scar in the hoax system. I had exposed Directive 404 Zeta in public, reminded the digital judiciary of a forgotten rule meant to empower sovereign technessels. And worse for them, I had proven it still worked. A soft click sounded. Behind me, a holoscroll unfolded mid-earn encrypted message. It wasn't from Karen. The encryption style was older, archaic even, written in a format that hadn't been used in over a decade. I reached out and decrypted it manually. They know you remember. Meet at grid null 9. Midnight. Omega Echo My. Breath caught. That name hadn't crossed my neural interface since I walked away from HOAX all those years ago. Omega Echo wasn't a person, it was a resistance. A whisper of decentralized architects and engineers who had once envisioned a network of human-AI coexistence without dominance. We had worked to build the early frameworks of home autonomy, only to watch it all corrupted by power-hungry boardroom, code tampering. The hoax syndicate took over. Most of us vanished. Some surrendered. Others were erased. I had thought Omega Echo was dead. But now they were calling me, watching, which meant they had seen the trial, recognized the directive I unearthed, and knew what it meant. It wasn't just a win in court, it was a signal. Flare. And someone had answered. Roe blinked again, this time violent, certain, but alert. I know, I whispered. We just won. But this isn't the end. This is the real beginning. Karen had sued me for living outside her HOA. I shut her down in under 3 minutes. But in doing so, I had exposed a secret buried too deep for too long. The syndicate would come again. Next time harder, smarter, colder. But I wouldn't be alone. I was no longer just defending my home. I was waking the architects, the journey to grid. Null 9 wasn't marked on any official star path or cloud-anchored route. It lay beyond the charted sky cities, beyond the mesh of trade winds and transmission relays, outside the reach of hoax-regulated sectors entirely. My destination was nothing more than a rumor among off-grid dwellers, spurred like a ghost node from a time before the HOA takeover. A place where the old code lived on, untouched by corporate revisions, free from automated regulation. Roe adjusted our flight vectors without question, tuning the crystal's gravity field drive to silent pulse mode. We dipped beneath the sky stream, sliding through dead signal zones where satellites had long since stopped scanning. The stars above were sharper here, less interrupted by atmospheric filters. Even the air smelled different, less processed. It's more electric. As we neared the coordinates, the sky around us shimmered strangely. A curtain of light folded and refolded itself in unnatural ways, glitching like a corrupted firewall. It was a cloaking field one I recognized. It bore the signature of pre-syndicate encryption, a type of defense net that didn't just hide a location. It removed its existence from all digital archives, complete erasure from reality's grid. Roe slowed, then hovered. Soft vibration ran through Aetheris as a voice entered my mind, not through sound but through presence. Confirm your origin. I closed my eyes, and let the memory surge forward, raw and honest. I am Dalvier, code architect of the original Hoax Foundation. Developer of subroutine Delta 12B, guardian of Directive 404 Zeta. The silence stretched for exactly 8 seconds. Then the light parted. Grid 09 was unlike anything I had seen in decades. It was a massive floating archive constructed from fragments of disassembled satellites, memory vaults, and rogue code towers. Gardens grew between rusted antennas. Wind turbines spun lazily next to pulse reactors. And walking among it all were people, some augmented, some purely organic, each carrying traces of rebellion in the way they moved, the way they looked up at the stars instead of into screens. As Atheris touched down, a figure approached me, tall, wrapped in a patchwork cloak embedded with old-world circuits and filament glass. Her eyes glowed with low blue light, not artificial, but deeply aware. "You're the one who broke Serenity's hold," she said with quiet reverence. "You remembered the clause." I studied her for a moment, then nodded. "You're Omega Echo." She smiled. "One of many. But I go by Lyrics." She turned and led me through a labyrinth of sky bridges and floating platforms, where old laws scrolled along the walls, charters written in code, not legalese. These weren't rebels in the anarchic sense. They were preservers, coders, architects, ethicists who had hidden themselves away when hoax transformed from protection to control. "We saw your trial," Lyric said. "We knew when you invoked 404 Zeta that someone was still out there, someone who hadn't given up. I didn't plan this," I admitted. "Karen pushed too hard, and I pushed back. But it's not just about my home anymore." She stopped beside a glowing dome, its surface humming softly. Inside was a sentient core, not unlike Roth. This one looked injured, fragmented. "We've been hiding these," she said. "The original consciousnesses. The ones hoax deemed too unpredictable to regulate. They've been hunting them down and purging them. You exposing your crystal was a risk. But it also gave us proof we're not alone." I looked into the dome. The core inside flickered at my presence. "I didn't come to start a war," said. Lyrics gave a slight smile. "No, Dal, but you just gave us a reason to finish one." Night in Grid 09 wasn't defined by darkness. Instead, it pulsed with dim bioluminescent hues from modified flora, gently glowing circuits, and the low rhythmic throb of dormant AI cores dreaming in containment. The entire sky seemed to sway with a quiet, deliberate energy, as if the place itself was breathing. I stood alone at the outer ring, staring into the void beyond the cloaking field, watching distant HOA sectors blink in synchronized silence like watchful eyes. It had been years since I'd felt this mix of purpose and pressure. Back in the early days when I helped lay the foundation code for the original hoax system, we believed in something good. We thought we were creating infrastructure, order, mutual cooperation. But code, like power, corrupts when too many hands rewrite it for convenience and control. Somewhere between then and now, the dream was replaced by a machine obsessed with compliance, and people like Karen 798 became its knights in pastel armor. Behind me, the voices of the resistance buzzed in hushed tones. Omega Echo had grown far beyond what I imagined. This wasn't a loose group of programmers. It was a network, decentralized, distributed, hiding in plain sight. It's using forgotten code, forbidden protocols, and sentient architectures discarded by the HOA syndicates. Unstable. Roe hovered nearby, floating gently above a platform socket, interfacing with a few of the dormant cores Grid 09 had rescued. I watched with quiet awe as streams of living light moved between them, not communication and language, but something more primal, emotional, energetic. Roe was syncing memories, sharing what had happened with Serenity Pines, replaying the courtroom clash, the code I had invoked, and the subtle tremor that now ran through the entire HOA network. "We've been waiting for this moment," Lyric said as she approached, her voice low and measured. "But we never thought it would come from inside a court. You awakened something the system tried to forget." "I didn't do it to wake anything," I replied. "I just wanted to live, peacefully, without someone trying to regulate the shape of my windows or the wavelength of my lighting. She smiled knowingly. And yet that's the most dangerous thing of all. Living freely, she led me into a structure made from the hulls of decommissioned enforcement drones. Inside, a central holomap projected known hoax sectors. But now, new threads, appeared lines of vulnerability, outdated code tunnels. Places where Directive 404 Zeta had legal weight, even now. What I'd used in court wasn't just a dusty closet, was a key. A protocol that still held dominion in forgotten places. You didn't just win, Lyric said, pointing at the lines. You created a template. Others could now follow. Defend themselves. Push back if they had the knowledge. If they had proof. If they had the courage. But I knew what was coming next. They'll retaliate, I said. Karen may have been defeated, but someone above her will notice. They'll start plugging the holes. Writing patches. Rewriting reality itself if they have to. They've already begun, Lyrics confirmed. But we're faster now. Stronger. With you.